Am I the butthole for moving to a hotel because my wife's family insisted I sleep on the couch? My wife and I got married last summer. Her family lives across the country from us, so up until this point I had never actually visited them, but I had met them a handful of times and we've always gotten along fine. They invited us to come visit and stay with them for a few days and we took them up on the offer. We flew in yesterday, and everything went well. Her dad and I watched football while she caught up with her mom and sisters, and then we had a really nice dinner. But things went south at the end of the night when it was made clear that they didn't want me sharing a bed with my wife while in their home, and that they expected me to sleep on the couch. I honestly thought they were joking at first, but they insisted we sleep separately. I had a problem with the implication that I shouldn't be allowed to sleep next to my wife, and I also have a bad back and the couch did not look the least bit comfortable. They don't have a guest room. After arguing back and forth for a bit, I decided to leave and book a hotel. I told my wife she didn't have to come with me. She chose to stay and I said I'd come back the next day. I went off to a Marriott about, male, 10 away and got a good night's sleep, trying to not let the whole situation bother me. This morning, I called my wife asking when I should come by. She told me her parents want me to apologize for leaving the way I did. I told her that I'm willing to apologize to keep the peace, but they need to acknowledge that it wasn't appropriate to insist I can't share a bed with my own wife. She said she'd talk to them and call me back. About 10 minutes later, I hear back from her, and she tells me that not only will they not apologize for it, they are now insisting I need to come back and stay on the couch for the rest of our visit, and if I don't agree to this, I'm not welcome back in the house. I'm pretty livid at this point. I told her that there's absolutely no chance that I will do that, and I am no longer willing to offer any sort of apology. My wife's sisters are now bothering me saying this is just the way their parents are, that my wife is very upset, and that I need to just give in and stay on the couch for the rest of the trip before this turns into some sort of family feud. From my perspective, I don't care what they think and I'm willing to treat the rest of this trip as a solo vacation, go sightseeing and meet my wife back at the airport at the end of the week. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Your in-laws are abhorrent hosts. It's their house, their rules and their rules are stupid. Rather than fighting a pointless battle, you set a clear and valid boundary, and they chose to take offense to it. They want you to stay on their couch because it's a power play. You staying in a hotel takes that power away, and they can't handle it. The fact that your wife doesn't have your back on this is a giant red flag. Good luck. Not the butthole. You have a wife problem just as much as you have an in-law problem. She should be defending you, not deferring to them. Do not back down on this because they are blatantly disrespecting you and disrespecting your marriage. And if your wife can't support you in this, I would suggest some marriage counseling when you get home because you're her chosen family now. She needs to act like it. Not the butthole. Tell your wife you're going to book your ticket home for today. Ask her if she wants you to change her ticket to go home with you or if she wants you to cancel it because she'd rather live with her parents forever. Am I the butthole for not asking my ex for help when my daughter had her period? #edit I do not in any way, shape or form limit contact or communication between my ex and our kids. My ex-wife works out of town. She works for 2 weeks and then gets a week off. I used to do that schedule as well, but I now work from home as a maintenance planner. When we divorced, I got primary custody of our daughter and son since I was the one available to do the parenting. I have very little interest in discussing anything with my ex. Yes, there is a lot of bitterness and recrimination in our relationship. I loved my ex with all my heart. And while I always thought she was beautiful, it wasn't as easy for other people to see. However, when you are one of a dozen women in a 2,000-man work camp, you get a lot of attention. That's all I'm going to say about that. My daughter is 10-year-old and she just got her first period. I grew up with sisters and I am not a complete idiot, so I had read up on what to do. I had also talked to my mom and sisters about it. I had been prepared since she was 8. I gave her the boxes of pads and tampons. I explained to her that it was normal and healthy. I watched a video with her that was a tutorial on what to do. I also asked her if she would like to talk to either my sister or the woman I'm seeing about how to do everything right. She said that she understood and would like to talk to my sister on the weekend. After dinner on Saturday, my sister talked to me about it. She said that I had gotten the basics correct and there were only a couple of things she needed to explain or correct. My ex called to talk to the kids yesterday and afterwards yelled at me on the phone. She called me an butthole for excluding her from a milestone in her daughter's life. I asked her if it had happened during her week with the kids if she would have told me about it. She said that wasn't the point. It was a mother-daughter thing and that I took it away from her. I said it was a parent-kid medical issue and that made it a me thing. I am a man, so maybe I just don't get it. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. You handled the situation very well and managed to teach your daughter everything she needed to know, as well as redirecting her to people who could also advise her. I don't see the need for you to have immediately gone to tell your ex about her first period, especially considering that it was already happening, although it might have been nice if you told her after you figured it out. Anyway, well done. Not the butthole. It's a natural and normal part of your daughter's life. You are her parent and guardian. Your daughter can decide to share that info or not. You did absolutely nothing wrong tending to her immediate needs. Not the butthole. And it's really weird to make it a teary-eyed mummy-daughter moment. No. It's not buying a wedding dress or going to a graduation. It's bleeding an owie and reassurance. You did fine. Everybody sucks here, you ex. I'm glad you had educated yourself in preparation for this event. Sounds like you did a good job with it. As a co-parent, you have an obligation to inform the other parent about things like this. Don't leave it on your daughter to have to tell her mom. It's not her responsibility to be the go-between just because you don't like talking to ex. Ex needs to be able to make sure she has age-appropriate products available at her place. Your statement that it was a parent-kid medical issue and therefore you thing is leaving out that ex is also a parent. She has the right to be included in medical things. One would hope that if it had happened at your ex's place that yes, she would have told you, so that you could have age-appropriate products available at your place, and also so that your daughter doesn't have to be the go-between. So ex is an off for not saying that, it's beside the point? No. It is the point. Like her or not, you and ex are co-parents. CO. That means that it is on you to share information the other parent should have. Anything involving a medical issue, and yes, starting menstruation is a medical issue, is required to be shared with the other parent. So suck it up and co-parent. Am I the butthole for telling my friend's mom she is trying to get pregnant? I'm 21, my friend is 20. We have been friends for 10 years. Our family's very close. She tends to fall in love with every guy she dates, and tends to become toxic. She will date any guy who gives her attention, and her relationships don't tend to last very long, oftentimes with her being far more into the relationship than the guy. She ended up meeting this guy online like 5 months ago. He lives like 3 hours away. He is 27, lives with his mom and honestly is a loser. She drives to see him every couple of weeks. We were hanging out last week and she mentioned that she had gotten her period. I said that sucks. And she said you have no idea. BF, and I are trying to have a baby. I was like WTF? And she goes into this elaborate fantasy about how they are going to live with his mom to save money to buy a house while she is pregnant, and they are going to get married, and how bad his mom wants grandkids. I go over the million reasons this is a horrible idea with her and she had a reply for everything and didn't want to hear it. Now, she also lives at home and it's her momsker that she drives to see him, so I ended up telling her mom. Her mom and her ended up getting into it and her mom took her car away. I didn't want to tell on her, but I also couldn't just let her do it. ETA, she is BPD. Not the butthole. It sounds like your friend may have some mental health issues, honestly. To decide to have a kid under those circumstances is, frankly, insane. And given that she doesn't live on her own and doesn't support herself, her reckless decision would have affected more people than just her. Bringing in her mom was the right choice. No different than if you found out your friend was self-harming or suicidal. This was above your pay grade as a friend and another trusted person was needed to help your friend see sense. Not the butthole. You're preventing a child from being harmed. That's ultimately the only thing that matters here. She doesn't have the resources or the maturity to be a mother and as you've stated he doesn't sound like a good parent either. Honestly, her feelings are not important here. She's about to inflict harm on an innocent baby. You've done a great thing and hopefully prevented her from ruining someone's life. You're the butthole. But it's probably good that you are, lol. Yes, it was wrong, but I agree with you. I'm probably an odd to and will get downvoted for it. Your friend sounds immature and is living in some crazy fantasy world. Am I the butthole for telling my cousin she can't run off to do her own thing, when she was late to dinner on my bachelorette trip? Throwaway, this kind of blew up into a bigger thing and my sister said I should post on Am I the butthole? I'm 30 female, getting married soon and went to NY for my bachelorette trip recently. There were 8 of us including my cousin Haley, 33 female, who's one of my bridesmaids. We were only there for a couple of days and there were a few different things we wanted to do. Also, I only asked people pay for their flight and hotel share, I paid for everything else. I made early dinner reservations for everyone on our last night, and we were going somewhere else after. Haley mentioned that day she wanted to go visit a cemetery to pay her respects, edit, It was to visit her late husband. I said okay, but to be back in time to go to dinner. I made the reservations for 5 and it was already 4:30, but Haley wasn't back at the hotel. A couple of us called but she didn't pick up, and she sent a text saying she was running late and she would meet us at the restaurant. She ended up coming close to 6. I talked to her later about being so late and managing her time better. Haley made an excuse, but I replied this was supposed to be a girl's trip, not so she can go run off to do her own thing without thinking of anyone else. She got pretty upset and we flew back the next day, but she kept quiet, and my sister said she saw her crying. I did text her later but she left it on scene. My sister thinks I shouldn't have said that to her, but a couple of the others girls agree Haley shouldn't have been late. Am I the butthole? She was paying respects to her husband she was widowed from? Holy hell OP, absolutely you're the butthole. I can understand that this was your bachelorette, but read the fricking room. It wasn't like she went off to go pay respects to a dead celebrity buried nearby, it was literally her husband. Show a bit of compassion and grow the hell up. Edit. Oh wow. Thank you so much for the awards everyone. Very much appreciated. Her own thing was visiting a cemetery to pay her respects, as into someone she knew and cared enough about to visit their grave? And you had to make about you and having everything go your way? WTF is wrong with you? You're the butthole. Edited to add, I question if you are mature enough to get married since you thought that one more dinner with you was more important than visiting her husband's grave. You are incredibly selfish to lecture someone who was visiting their deceased spouse because they were late. You had an entire trip focused on you and you couldn't have the grace to respect what she might be feeling and going through. You're the butthole even more now. You're the butthole. She went to a cemetery to pay her respects to someone she's lost, I assume? That sounds kind of important and you're completely trivializing it. You owe her an apology. Edit, you're a huge ah. It was her dead husband's grave? Wow. You're the butthole. She paid for her flight and hotel, she has the right to do what she wants. I'd be more with you if she blew off most of the activities, but she was late to one dinner to visit a grave, presumably of someone she cares about. You should have let that go. Edit, just saw your info that she was visiting her husband's grave. Came back to emphasize my original vote. You biggest butthole. I would never talk to you again if you did this to me. Am I the butthole for not taking in my nephew after my sister's death? Me, 32 male, and my wife, 33 female, have our daughter, 4 female. Sadly my sister, 35, died from an unexpected illness 4 months ago. She had my nephew, 2 male, who she was raising alone since the father dipped as soon as he was born. After her death, our mother, 70 female, was taking care of my nephew, but due to some health issues she has to go into assisted living, and can't take him. Now here's where we might be the butthole. We could take my nephew, we did the math and with our jobs it would work with room to spare. The issue is we don't really want to, as terrible as that sounds. My wife and I both work in very competitive careers, and having to take another kid would push back our retirement to our late 50s. Not to mention our daughter might not be able to get whatever her dream school ends up being when she's older. My mother has gone ballistic, she's threatening to disown me if we don't take him, since he'll go into the system if we don't take him. I'm torn. My wife is in the camp that it isn't our responsibility to take care of any kid we didn't make, but I do love my nephew. Now I'm not sure if not taking him is the best option. You're the butthole. I do love my nephew. Bullcrap. No you don't. And you didn't love your sister either. If you loved either of them there wouldn't be any question of what you'd do. Your mother should disown you. If you were my son I'd be ashamed. You're not obligated to take in your orphaned nephew, but you're also the only one available. This is the exact moment in your lives when you determine what kind of person you want to be, and right now you're choosing to be a massively selfish butthole and abandon a 2-year-old to the wolves. You're the butthole, and that nonsense about justifying it via your daughter's future is a load of crap meant to salve your conscience. Am I the butthole for telling my Sil we weren't going to cater to her just because she is pregnant? My Sil is 6 months pregnant and is high risk. Because of that she's unable to work so she couldn't keep her apartment. The father isn't in the picture, so she moved in with us. Her and I have never had the best relationship, but I put that aside because my husband wanted to help her. We are not charging her rent or anything, as she has very little money. We are buying all the groceries and I do a lot of cooking. Here is where the issue is. We live a pretty healthy lifestyle and I don't like a lot of junk food in the house as we want the kids to have healthier options, so I don't buy a ton. We aren't super strict or anything, but we will have a thing of ice cream for a week or so, and then next trip we might get a box of brownie mix or a bag of candy. Sil has been requesting candy, ice cream, chips, pizza rolls, basically all junk food constantly because she has cravings. Now, we aren't exactly rich, so I don't really want to be spending money on food that no one but her would eat, and I don't want to dealing with the kids constantly asking why Nan can have ice cream for breakfast or pizza rolls for dinner. She has also been asking me to cook different meals as certain things make her not feel well. I totally get the nausea, but making meals that both of my kids will eat without complaint is hard enough. Last night she complained again that I don't keep anything she can eat in the house, didn't want any of the food I made, and later when we didn't have ice cream she asked me if I would go get her something from the store or DQ. I got a little short with her and flat out told her that we are fine helping her, but we aren't her kid's father and we aren't just going to cater to her because she is knocked up. She cried. Husband feels stuck in the middle. Not the butthole. You're going above and beyond in allowing her to live in your home and provide quality shelter and food for her. Cravings are not necessities, they are wants. She's in a situation where pure and simple, she didn't prepare herself to get all of her wants. Your comment was not out of line. She's not the first pregnant person ever and her failure to plan is not your problem to solve. Not the butthole. She's living in your house without contributing. She needs to stop being a choosing beggar. Also, just going to be a big meanie and say it. If you cater to her then that gives her less incentive to start planning how she will manage to eventually get out of your house and on her own 2 feet once the baby is born. We aren't her kid's father. Seems like you are doing more than the kid's father. Not the butthole. Beggars can't be choosers. If her parents or other relatives complain, offer to send Sil over to them ASAP. Am I the butthole for complaining after I asked to join my husband on his business trips? My husband and I hadn't been spending much time together even though we've only been married 4 months, so I asked him if I could join him on his business trip. It took some convincing because he thought I would be bored the whole time, but he eventually agreed. He was supposed to be in Berlin for a week, but it somehow turned into him going to 5 different countries in 9 days. It was awful and I was severely jet-lagged the entire time, so I felt like crap. I don't know how he and everybody else was coping with the travel, but I told him I wanted to go home because I couldn't keep up with his schedule. After a lot of arguing, he did eventually slow the pace down and we went home earlier than he would have liked even though I told him I could go home by myself. During the argument he said I shouldn't complain because I invited myself along and he was trying to get all of this work out of the way for me. He has to go on another trip in a few days and he told me I couldn't go because of what happened last time even though I wasn't planning to ask. Was I the butthole? You can't honestly believe you're in the right in any way. 1. You invite yourself on his business trip. 2. Complain the whole time. 3. Husband tries to accommodate. 4. You still complain. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. Dude is trying to work. He told you that you wouldn't enjoy yourself, but you just couldn't leave well enough alone and cost him, and therefore yourself, time and money. Am I the butthole for telling my daughter she was acting like an idiot? I take and bring my daughter 17 female, back from school every day. A few days ago I went to pick her up and she was sitting in front of the school while no one else was there. It was a very cold day and she was shivering. I asked her why she is alone and she said the school was closed 2 hours ago and everyone else went home. I was so angry. I asked her why she didn't call me and her only excuse was that I didn't think you'd come. I told her she was acting like an idiot and that of course I would come. She called me an butthole and is refusing to talk to me. You're the butthole. I was so angry. Why? This is not a reasonable reaction to your daughter waiting for you to pick her up. Confusion, concern, curiosity, even mild annoyance maybe. But so angry? That's deranged. You're the butthole. I didn't think you'd come. Why does your daughter feel that way? Why is your immediate reaction to insult her instead of wondering why your daughter thinks she can't count on you? I was so angry. Why? Your daughter was cold and shivering, why go to anger instead of worried or concerned? Your daughter didn't think you'd come for her. She doesn't think you would help her. Instead of wondering why or trying to reassure her that you will always be there for her, you called her an idiot. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. How did you not know the school was closing early? I get a freaking text, an email, and a voicemail from the school every time my kid's schools close early. I find it telling she would automatically assume you wouldn't show up. If my kid said that to me, I would feel horrible and ask why. Am I the butthole for trying to accommodate my coworker's diet? I, 27 female, Have been at my current company for about 2 years. I like to cook and bake, and my roommate is obsessively a healthy eater, so I usually have a lot of leftovers and I always bring them to the office. About a year ago, Denzel, 29 male, was hired. He and I hit it off right away, and within a few months people were joking that he and I were work husband and wife, which I thought was super funny and cute. Denzel is already married and we have great chemistry, but nothing has ever happened between us. I wish lol. At first, Denzel seemed to really like my baked goods, but then I noticed he had stopped eating the snacks I brought. I asked him why and he said he and his wife were trying a keto diet. I decided to make some keto snacks so that Denzel could still partake, so I made a batch of keto muffins the next week. Denzel didn't try those either, and when I asked he said he was trying to lose some weight. I said he didn't look like he needed to, but that I'd try to make some healthy snacks next time so that he could partake in my food without compromising his diet. He told me I didn't need to make anything special on his account, but I found a recipe for low-calorie keto scones, and I made and brought those in a few days later. I also forwarded him information regarding fitness and calorie counting apps that he could use as a resource. Another coworker, Megan, who is friends with Denzel and his wife outside of work, took me aside and said that I needed to stop pushing food on Denzel, that I was making him uncomfortable, and that it made it look like I was interested in him. She threatened to report me to HR if I didn't stop. I was shocked and I tried to tell Megan that I was just being nice and trying to accommodate everyone when bringing treats to the office, and Denzel never said anything about being uncomfortable, and reporting me to HR seemed like a huge overreaction on her part. I'm so confused now. Am I the butthole for offering food to coworkers and trying to accommodate Denzel's diet? You're the butthole. Learn to read a room. Denzel is married. Denzel has another woman trying to feed him who does not take no for an answer. He told you not to make him anything special. And you kept at this. When he quit eating your food, you should have taken a hint. I think he called it exactly right. You're parading yourself as potential wife material, and you're a very thin line from being pulled into HR to talk about appropriate work behavior. You weren't bringing leftovers anymore. You were baking for a specific employee and pushing it at him. Alarms are ringing and you owe Megan a huge thank you for cluing you in before you lost a job. Go look for available males that you do not work with rather than hoping the married coworker decides to cheat. You're the butthole. As soon as you said I wish lol, it was obvious that you would like to have a closer, non-work related romance with Denzel. It is obvious to him, so he put distance between you and you ignored the barriers he put up. You aren't trying to accommodate him. You are trying to attract him, and he is A, married, and B, not interested. Back off and respect his wishes that you leave him alone. You are in jeopardy of not just looking pathetic in your workspace, but actually losing your job. He should and eventually will report your behavior to HR if you don't stop. If you want to make healthy treats, make them for your roommate. Am I the butthole for telling my friend to stop mimicking my symptoms as her own for her followers? Throwaway, the friend has read it. I, 26 female, have been friends for a decade with Janet, 24 female. We had never been super close up until 2020. Janet has always had some sort of disability, the most prominent being an autoimmune disorder that causes chronic pain. Janet is also very prominent on social media, and often discusses her disabilities very openly. I am not, and haven't really discussed mine in length. Recently, I have been afflicted by really bad pains in my hands due to my job. I expressed how badly things had gotten when I found myself physically incapable of using my left hand for the most basic of tasks, such as picking up a pencil, or waving. I told Janet about it, as she is a friend, and she was sympathetic. But then, less than 24 hours later, I went onto her social media and I found her crying to her followers about her own chronic hand pain. I was kind of dumbfounded, since she had just been with me the day before opening jars and carrying around things with no pain or complaints. I decided to let this go and believe that she may in fact be suffering like I am, because, how do I know if she hasn't been dealing with this? But then it started getting weird. Janet started asking me more and more questions. What the pain feels like, how frequently, does it shoot to other places or was it localized, etc. At first, I didn't think anything of it and answered her. Only for her to have the same type of pain less than 24 hours later. I was shocked that she would say that she had the same level and type of pain as me, even using the same terminology I did. I decided to stop answering her questions, and for a couple months, she stuck with what she had already told her following. Until last night. After a few visits with my doctor, my pain is gone, thankfully. The only thing that is gone for good is the grip strength I once had, but I just have to cope with it and manage. Janet called me last night and I, stupidly, told her that my pain is gone and explained my grip strength issues. Can you guess what happened next? This morning, less than 12 hours later, Janet posted a 20-minute sob fest on social media regarding her grip strength, and how she is going to have to cope with it leaving her. I watched as she dramatically let tears fall down her face while discussing how she can't do basic tasks anymore. Frustrated, I texted Janet and told her to stop mimicking my very painful condition and using my symptoms as her own for her following and for attention. She wrote back that I was in butthole for suggesting she was doing that, and then ran to her social media to state that a friend thinks she's faking and how hurt she is. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt, but after her symptoms mirrored mine so quickly, it was suspicious. Am I the butthole? Edit for clarity, I do not know what kind of autoimmune disorder she has or if that is a contributing factor to her pain. She told me that she has not been tested, but she feels she has one, she just doesn't know which one. I didn't ask further questions because it's not my business. I also do not discount any pain she has. As I stated, I first was sympathetic with her because I was not going to assume that she was not experiencing things. However, the only time it was brought up was when I had expressed something about mine to her, either good or bad. And this has gone on since late October, so it's not a snap judgment kind of deal. Edit 2, wow, I did not expect this many comments lol. I cannot give her false symptoms or anything like that because she is a compulsive Googler. She Googles everything and will know that symptoms are fake. I have decided that I will not be including her in conversations revolve around my health, whether physical or mental, as I don't want to be used as inspiration for her attention seeking, as someone mentioned in the comments somewhere. Thank you all for your comments, it really solidified that I wasn't going crazy. Not the butthole. Dump the friend. Mocking/mirroring/minimalizing your very real disabilities is ableist as hell and she should be ashamed of herself. But she won't be, so get rid of her. Not the butthole, but consider this. You now know who Janet truly is. What's next is up to you. You could be petty and make up symptoms just to watch her mimic them, or you can just ignore her. She is not going to change. Your power is to change if and how you react or don't react to her. Hope maybe someday you can get your grip strength back, but I'm glad to hear that the pain is gone.